Hey, scholars. All right, Homer. Let's talk a little just about how to read this sort of stuff, how to get started with it. First and foremost, here, people have spent their lives on this book. People have spent their careers studying this book. Do not feel daunted by it. The whole goal here is to leap in and read and enjoy ultimately, because it is one of the great stories of all history. And so, you're never going to get tested on certain characters and what they said in certain situations. I mean, that would be dumb. Um, what we want to do is here. I just wanted to show you how I read, but then also just as and that's part of my job is to sort of model for you what scholarly humanities is like. Okay, I am a historian. And so I'm not a literature professor. I'm not a classics professor. I read this book when I was in college in bits and pieces, and then eventually, when I don't remember exactly when. It would have been, I think, after I became a professor that I actually sat down and read all of this in the Iliad. A group of students actually. I remember this. A group of students who are now old people came and asked if we could read it together. So three of us read through the whole Iliad and the whole Odyssey together. And we just, one was a psych major, one was a history major, and me. And we met once a week and we just read through the whole thing. And this would have been 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. But it's a great book. And it's one of those things where even before I read the whole thing, I talked about it in classes. Everybody does. Lots of people haven't read it and talk about it. So the goal of this class is that we will read it, and then you'll have that the rest of your life. That you'll say, "Hey, I read the Odyssey," and I enjoyed it. Okay. Here's the thing: is you don't have to read the introduction. That's the scholarly stuff. It's really good, very good introduction stuff. And then let's go to book one. Now this is what I do is I scribble in books. I ask you to take notes, and if you want to do that in a separate notebook or something like that. But in my books, I have lots of notes. I make little indexes for myself in the back of them, and I don't have much of an index in the back of this one because most of my notes I actually write indexes at the top of the page. Description of Odysseus here, and then you get over here, and Telemachus is speaking here, and then so I do these different things, and that keeps, by writing in the margins above, I can actually sort of keep track of the outline. It's great for book discussion, but it's also just I do it for books just so I keep track of things. It's always the best way to read is actually with a pencil in your hand. Word of wisdom, man. I don't know. I just think a pencil in your hand, and feel free to use a book. Make a book your own you've got the text and then you scribble all over it. Okay, so this great description of, sing to me of the man of twists and turns. This is Odysseus, driven time and again off course. See, Odysseus is trying to get home, but he's constantly being driven off course. This is the great story of the Old Testament. This is the great story of life in general in this world that we live in. And but we know that home is out there. So this is a great beginning. Now, and then what I do is like I point out to myself. Okay, here's Ethiopians are mentioned. Well, that's an interesting thing. Ethiopians, at the farthest limits of mankind. Well, he's talking about Africa. Poseidon has gone down to Africa while this other meeting with Zeus is happening and Athena. And that's part of the problem. You see, Poseidon's going to come back, and he's going to be the one who causes so much trouble for Odysseus. But Athena's on his side, trying to help him get home. And then there's sparkling-eyed Athena. These things of the wine dark sea. There's always these little key phrases which are really good. And then, like the gods are concerned with individuals. That's a very interesting fact. And so I write that in, I say like gods and individuals is going on. And then you see great statements about wisdom and what wisdom is. And then, Athena hides herself. She becomes, she appears as a stranger in the household of Penelope and Telemachus. And that's sort of fun, Here's gods who hide themselves. This is, like for many years, a guy I wrote a biography of, Cotton Mather, he talks about how Homer actually sees this great truth that the Bible tells us, that there's angels among us all the time. And so sometimes we don't know it, but we are entertaining angels. That's a line out of I think Hebrews and book of Hebrews. But it constantly entertaining angels when you don't know it in Homer, So this is, how I do it. See, I point, and this is how then when I go into a discussion, I can go, okay. And then one of the things that happens here is that there's a discussion, different characters back and forth. And so I mark who's talking. Penelope's talking here. Telemachus is talking here. Because you can lose track of who's talking. And then Antonio, the bad guy. There's going to be this guy, Antonius, and Antinous or something. I forget. But he's the bad guy, one of the suitors who sort of rounds up the suitors. And he appears, he talks, and he keeps coming back. And whenever you see Antinous talking, that's the bad guy. Okay, he's the guy gonna get. Now, this whole first part doesn't even talk about Odysseus. This is the Odyssey, and this is the brilliance of the book. The book is about getting home, and so the book starts with home, and then starts with a family in trouble. Penelope is being pressed by all these people, and then Telemachus, Odysseus' son, wants his father to fix everything and get it all put back to right. And so, Telemachus is encouraged to take this trip, out to Sparta, and then up through book 9, you have this or up through book 4. Where is it? Oh, this is what I wanted to show you. You see, look at this. Okay, so you have an introduction here, and that's usually good. And then you have this back here. You have all sorts of helps in the back of a book. But don't forget, you have Wikipedia. Wikipedia is one of the devil's instruments in the world, but that doesn't mean it's not really sort of cool quite a bit, especially on things like this. You go to the Wikipedia page here. And I typed in Odyssey. You get the Wikipedia. And there's a pile of good information. A lot of Wikipedia steals this from encyclopedias and then later on scholars and stuff. You dial up something modern or you want to find out about a rock star or something like that. Wikipedia is terrible because all these junior hires can come in there and screw it up. But on passages, on these old stable things, like you're looking up at a classic text, it's not messed up. You can trust it pretty well. You can't trust it for footnotes on your papers, but Wikipedia can help you, especially if you go to the bottom of your entry and you find all these footnotes. Footnotes are great, and then of course there's also film adaptions, opera, literature, pop culture, and you get all sorts of information there. It's cool. Now, one of the things that I was looking for is this. Okay, this is the short outline of the book. Books 1 to 4 are called the Telemachy, which is the story of Telemachus and this stuff I've just been talking about with Athena. Books 9 to 12, and that ends our assignment. Is 9 to 12 is Odysseus recalls his adventures on the Phaeacian with his host. So this is when Odysseus, after in book 9, starts to actually be the speaker, telling stories about his adventures. Okay, and then with book Well, it doesn't say anything more than that, but that's your assignment is up to book 12, and this is what we want. Is first is all this stuff about the Telemachus and the family and the home in Ithaca, and then you have the stuff with the stories. And so we're going to want to talk about the stories. We're going to want to talk about the main characters. We're going to talk about wisdom, this pursuit of wisdom. That's always important to us. We want to talk about geography, where they are. I mean, this is presented as true history. One of the things I do is also put these notes in here. These little, I think these things here, these little yellow things. They're like one of the greatest inventions for scholarship in the last 20 years, 25 years. When I was in college, they didn't have these little things. They didn't have Post-it notes when I was in college. How do you get through college without Post-it notes? And so we have them now, and this is the greatest technological invention we've got is these Post-it notes. But I write on them the key things. Here it is. There it is. You see, want the truth. And so I go in here and you see, I want to know the truth. And this is where it's Telemachus, I think. Yeah, it's Old Man and the Sea. I want to know the truth, though it grieves me all the more. Okay? Well, that's interesting because that's how true is this is a question for us. And then comparing that with how it works in the story of Abraham and Sarah that we just had. So that's what we're going to do in class, okay? I'm just giving you a little preview. We want to talk people. We want to do like adventures. We want to like have a great time. And then you see you can watch something like Brother, Where Art Thou? Or all these other Odyssean got to get home stories, and you'll see how the Homer's book continues to play out. So I'll see you on Tuesday, and that's when we'll talk about 1 to 12, and that's when I will see you in the Zoom class, and I'm hoping to make this better. I put some office hour things there, so you can call me, or you can set up an email. So some of you are in San Diego, and if you want to come up to campus, I am here in my office a lot. I live right next to campus, so I can be in my campus a lot. And then in the afternoons, if 2 or 3 of you wanted to go sailing, happy to take you sailing and get to know you a little bit, and you can sort of figure out, maybe get a little bit of a sense of what it's like to be here on campus again. So I'm leaving you with that. Scholarship, yes.